Hey everybody, Tony Gonzalez with Garage Composites. We often hear from our dealers that cost of doing business is going up and margins just keep getting smaller, and that's exactly why we decided to partner with MiCamp. MiCamp works with powersports and auto dealerships nationwide to help reduce or even eliminate thousands of dollars in credit card processing fees. They do this through lowered rates or fully compliant dual pricing and surcharge programs. Garage Composites recently switched our own processing over to MiCamp, and it was super simple. Kylie and Lauren over at MiCamp ran a quick analysis of our current processing statements, showed us exactly how they could cut our monthly fees by 25%, and then had our system converted and running smoothly within a week. After working with their team, we wanted to partner so that our listeners can benefit from the same savings. MiCamp has agreed to help offset any upfront conversion costs for GarageCast listeners. If you want to see how they can help your business, you can email them at garagecomposites@micamp.com. garagecomposites@micamp.com. That is MiCamp, garagecomposites@micamp.com to schedule a meeting with their dedicated team. We hope you use them. We're super happy with them.
If you have a part, let's say, for example, it's a Razor windshield from old chassis, you can literally go into your DSM or your Lightspeed and type in what year it fits, and it will populate every single person you ever sold a Razor to that year, whatever you serviced it. And guess what? You just pick up the phone. Hey, we found this windshield at a great price. And I guarantee you a customer will say yes.
This is a show for anybody that has something that they want to say. It's going to be full of people with a lot of energy, CEOs, OEMs, vendors.
Best practice ideas in this industry and of neighboring industries.
We're talking to people that are on the cutting edge of processes, management.
Serial entrepreneurs, authors. We really have a feast of all different types of senior level people.
A cornucopia, as it were.
A plethora, maybe. Grab a pen, grab a cup of coffee, and have a seat. Start writing. This is GarageCast.
GarageCast. Welcome to GarageCast. I'm pretty pumped to have our next guest on because, I've been accused, rightfully or wrongfully so, or wrongfully so, about having a strong passion about the parts and accessories department. Dantzler, why don't you kick this off on how this all came to be?
First of all, it's not a strong passion that you have. It's the way you present your strong passion.
Which is good. Thank you.
It's kind of like a few podcasts ago, we were talking about the marine industry and how Q3 was really going to crush them. It was the way I was presenting how it was going to crush them, so that I'm told, not just the content they're in. Parts and accessories, we always talk about, we just got back from one of our Garage One meetings, and we were just talking about, there we go again, line items per ticket, average sale, just in the tank, and that's where salespeople go to die, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you know what? I was talking to this guy, Sean Bracey, from Cedar Creek Motorsports, and we were chatting a few weeks ago, Sean, and I was like, we need to get Sean on. We need to get Sean on. Sean's like, yeah, we need to get me on, because he's the one guy I know in the parts department who acts like a salesperson, who treats the inventory like a salesperson, or even like an owner. And it's been a long time now. I think it was just, first of all, Sean, welcome to the show. Welcome to GarageCast.
Thank you, guys.
You coming, dude.
Was waiting, or very, very excited to get on.
Yeah.
Can't tell you enough how happy I am to get on.
Well, dude, that's just who you are, too. So that's what I found out the first time I went there. And I don't know, it was at least a decade or so ago. It might even be more. Maybe you can tell me. But when I was out there at Cedar Creek, Tony, I met Sean, and we were talking about kind of what we can do with staff. This was when it was John and Jay Jepson, still there, but picked up a couple partners, right? Steve Schaller and Brett Cottrell. And but this is pre those guys being partners. And I thought that guy, Sean, in the parts department is really sharp. So what can we do with him? Is he being underutilized? To which they laughed out loud, Sean. You should know they laughed out loud.
I know.
We were underutilizing you. But you do know this because you've been there long enough. So, yes. Tony, I figured what a great opportunity as we go into the winter, holiday season, to figure out how do we get this parts department to fire on all cylinders. So how'd you get there? Sean, how'd you get to Cedar Creek Motorsports and from the P&A department, for crying out loud?
Yes. A long time ago, I started here in, I think, 2011 or 2012, one of those 2 years. I was in college studying to be a history teacher, and I was working at a factory part-time, and I just had a run-in with their with a new manager that we hired, some guy that they just put in there and said, do all these changes. And of course, I bumped heads with him. And I remember I got pulled over for speeding, and I had a traffic court right in Ozaki County where Cedar Creek is. And I was dressed up, and I walked into Cedar Creek Motorsports to pick up a part for my ZX10. And one of the guys that was working at the counter, who it was one of those, you're just talking, made a friend. He's like, hey, we're hiring. You should hire here. You're like really like a passionate person. I was like, okay. He's like, and you're dressed up. I was like, all right. So I talked to the parts manager at that time. He said there wasn't a spot for me. But my dad always told me this lesson that if you want something, you just got to keep calling or bothering. And I literally called Danny, his name was, every single day. And, finally, he's like, you're really annoying, but I really like you, like knowingly good. Like, yes, we want you on board. Like, I've never seen somebody call so much to want a job. And then, the gears just kept turning, and I just learned and then just progressed my way up in the company and to where I am now. And very fortunate. I started in a very small building across the lot, and then we made this big building. And that's, Sam, it was, I think, 4 or 5 years ago, like right at the peak of COVID, when you came here for your KTM ride to go back out, back to Colorado, and you didn't have any warm gear. And I was like, you got to get these long underwear. And you're like, what? And then
yeah, Tony, they just wear these things walking around town all day in the winter.
Right here.
I mean,
I got them on right
now. So he's like, you got to have this. I'm like, I don't need something like that. I'm really glad I had that as I drove to Indiana in the winter time.
I even asked you, I was like, what are you wearing? And you're like, oh, no, just this. I'm like, dude, you're going to be freezing. And you're like, no, I won't. I'm like, yeah, you're going to need this. And you bought it. And then now here we are.
Midwest, man. They wear thermal underwear everywhere they go with their lunch pails and their thermos full of coffee. And
that's
cheese sandwich.
Tony's lucky.
Yeah,
I was gonna say Tony's lucky if he even gets pants on during the day, much less thermals.
True story.
Yeah,
true story. I'm not wearing any right now doing this interview. Hey, you skipped over quite a lot of stuff. So you come in well dressed and with a great attitude, and they won't hire you. That's the first thing I want to take note. You actually are dressed very well.
I was.
You're enthusiastic, but we don't have a place for you. Because that's not what we're looking for here. But I mean, come on, you just started at the counter doing parts and accessories.
I was part-time. I mean, think about it, guys. Like, how many part-time sales guys are out there? Nobody likes them. No one in the staff likes them because they're like, oh, they're just taking sales from me. So I was part-time. I worked the sales counter, but then all of a sudden I became this like grunt, whereas like, Sean, do this, move this inventory, and bring this down from the mezzanine. So that's actually kind of where I started to get my hands. And back in the day, we had these like OBS boxes, and there was so many of them stacked. And I was like, oh boy, that was gross. And all of a sudden, as I grew in the company, I was like, well, what are we doing with these? And then that's when I started to really like learn deeply about what was going on. But to circle back on your question, Tony, it's like, that's what I was. I was a part-time guy. And then in summertime, I went full-time. And then when I went back to college, I went back to part-time. And what I saw was a lot of people were kind of coming in and going. Like, we would hire somebody who would last 6 months, and then they would leave. We'd hire somebody who would last 6 months, they'd leave. But there I was. I kind of stayed there. And we just started like, I had to pick up more roles as I was going. Like, this guy would leave, and then he always did oil, whatever, stocking, ordering. And then I did learn that. And then Honda orders, Kawasaki, it kept, all of a sudden I was doing everything. And then, then I became a parts manager. I was offered the position. I don't even remember what year, to be honest with you guys. I think 2015, 2016. And then here we are many, many years later. And I told Sam, like, I listen to podcasts every week. I actually, my Spotify will go down in a list of orders, and I got through them all. All of a sudden I was listening to one, and I was like, what the heck? And I looked at the date, and it was like 2021. I was like, holy cow, I listened to like all of these. And I always was like, the things I pick up the most is like, everybody talks about money's in the metal, money's in the units, money's in major units side of things. And everybody kind of skips over the gear of the parts and accessories department, and also a little service, in the sense of like, hey, we are a sales organization. Like, I get it. There's probably a lot of PG&A departments out there that don't operate like a sales organization. And that's why these like certain general managers of the podcast I hear is like, I don't, that's a small part of the business. But I look at it as it's a grand part of the business. Like, I'm a big history guy. I love history. I love tractors. Like, there was an episode you guys had where a guy was talking about tractors. Like, yes, I'm trying to get Steve and Jay on board and Brett on board with getting an implement dealer, but that probably won't happen. But my point is like when Henry Ford was building these tractors and he wanted to get into market share, one of the things was like, how about getting parts for these things? Like if a farmer breaks his unit down out there and he can't get parts or they're too expensive, he's not going to buy it. So that's why Ford made his stuff so cheap, is that if they broke, here's a part for it. And what that allowed him to do is sell more tractors. And people forget about that we are that type. Like, if you can't get the parts for the things you buy or don't have a good representation of those parts, who the heck's going to buy our stuff? And a lot of people just forget about that small little step.
Well, without naming names, we could go down the list of several manufacturers who are in that category, right? If it's hard to get parts from you, like, I don't know. People are hesitant to that. You know, I've always called that department, let's just clear it up for our non-industry listeners. You mentioned two things, OBS and pg&a. So OBS is obsolescence, 12 months old or older inventory. And pg&a, parts, garments, and accessories. In the marine industry, they have a pro shop, but it's the same type of a department. And I've always called that department decorating Superman. Because Superman's not Superman without the cape and the look and the whole 9 yards, right? And so people don't just want to buy a bike; they want to have all the gear. I don't want to use my dad's 1971 leather jacket; it's all beat to hell. I want my own leather jacket and a new helmet and stuff like that. So that's the mindset that you have, is the selling mindset, because the customer experience is better for it, which is why I think you're uniquely situated to be on this podcast talking about this right now.
Absolutely. And again, once again, I greatly appreciate that. And my goal is just to kind of just tell people, like, hey guys, like, we're all in this together, like sales, organization, parts, service. We're all in this dealership. Like, I always look at, I'm a salesperson who happens to sell parts, gear, and accessories, or I'm a salesperson who happens to sell service. Like, I can't stress enough, like, you just were bringing up that Superman thing. Like, Superman's, you know, his kryptonite, that's what will break him. Well, every dealership can have a kryptonite if it's not working together cohesively. And I think it was one of your podcasts, maybe a couple weeks ago or maybe a month ago, you said, like, it was like, I think it was 4 transactions of a customer in service or parts that results in a unit, you know, purchasing. What I looked at is, it's quite amazing. So say, for example, a guy comes in the parts and accessories department, and say, for example, your obsolete is so bad that it says you have this part and you don't, and your guys are just scrambling around looking for it, and the customer's like, you know, I don't really care for this dealership. Well, that's an issue, because that could result in them not buying a major unit from us. So you're taking something that's a $20 purchase that can now affect a $30,000 UTV purchase, or they had a bad experience in service. And I always try to look at is every single person that opens a door in our store, you have to view them as a blank slate. Like, let's give them the full experience, regardless of what you may or predispositionally know about these people. Get them in, take care of them, make a transaction so that they will in turn buy a major unit, because that is what turns the lights on in this place. But without our department and without what we do and sell, it could alter how that transaction's being made, if that makes sense.
Yeah, completely. And I mean, you're speaking at a general manager owner level right now, which is awesome to hear. And I know a lot of that comes through years of training that you've done, right? So you've gone through all kinds of different training. What do you find is the best way to train your team? Is that video, live? Is it role playing? And how do you get the parts and accessories department, you know, usually tongue in cheek in this, but
yeah,
I usually am hammering on the parts and accessories department because of what I perceive as a lack of enthusiasm, like you're talking about. How do you get them to participate in training, and what type do you like to use?
Yeah, well, I think you got to actually show value in your training. That's the problem, is everybody hears the word training and they're like, oh, but then when you think of the NFL, it's like, well, this is what they're paid to do. Well, then you got to kind of put value in that in people. And what I like to try to do, or what I do, I should say, is I'm a hands-on guy. I love hands-on, but my hands-on is meaning, like, not just let's go over to the gear and like put it on and touch it. Like, oh, like, it's snowing out. Oh my God, we finally got snowmobile trails open. grab this oxygen helmet, throw it on, go for a ride on it. Well, it's brand new. Yeah, whatever. Just put it on and go experience it. We do the same with customers. Yeah, you're spending this $900 helmet, put it on, you drove your bike and go and ride it. Same concept with your guys. Like, I know we don't have a big off-road lot for people to go ride UTVs, but at least I can get one of my parts guys, hey, go take the keys to that Razor, bring it in around back, just whack on the throttle and see what you feel. Like, oh my God, that was cool. Well, now in Wisconsin, it's cold out, and lo and behold, when we drive the UTVs around, everybody's like, bundled up. It's like, yeah, now you know why you need a roof and windshield, guys, right? And it's more or less, you gotta put the value in front of them. Like, if I go in here and I tell Sam all about this jacket, it doesn't mean anything to him if I don't build some sort of a value to him, whether it's his color, what it feels like to him. But if I say, hey, Sam, it's cold out, throw this jacket on, go for a rip on your KTM adventure bike, and let me know what you think, you're going to be like, oh, well, he trusts me that I'm not going to steal it, or he values my I don't know, privacy or whatever you want to say. My dad instilled that into me because I come from like a Midwestern hardworking family. My dad never showed me anything. He just basically, here's a hammer, nails, figure it out, watch me, don't talk to me. And that's kind of what I did. I was like, oh, what do I do? And I don't want to do that necessarily to my staff, but it's more or less like, hey guys, we work in this dealership. It's pretty much, they want us to sell stuff. So what is easy for you to sell, and how can I make that easy for you to sell? And a lot of people in my years of experience are so much better with just hands-on. And maybe it's also talking to them about what's going on, but mainly just hands-on. Like, try this stuff on, wear it, beat it, smell it. I don't care. It's just try anything. So, but I did do the or the Managers Training Academy way back in the day, and I learned a heck of a lot from you guys, and that's why I look up to you guys a lot in that sense. So,
well, let me just ask you, the training that Tony was referencing, how do you get him to do it? Is it role playing? Is it in a classroom? Is it right? What is it? It sounds like it's immersion in the product. And then the test ride, right? Whether we say test ride for a major unit, but you're test riding jackets, you're test riding the long underwear that you sent me down the road with, you're test riding just pulling the ATV around on the side. It sounds like that's more, if we can get them engaged in the product, they're going to buy it. That's more of the training that you push your guys towards.
Test drive the product from your staff, yes. And you have to, like, when we build a unit in back, I will have my guys go back there and be like, look at all this stuff, guys, and let's touch it, and let's go just drive this thing through the lot and see, like, turn the sound system on. Like, it's so hard to sell from the catalog. I'm not a really a catalog guy. I never have been. Like, I look at some cool, but I'm one of those people like, I kind of want to go to the store and like just look at it and touch it. And I just figured, and maybe it's not going to work with all the other dealers out there.
Hey, quick question.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. How old are you? What generation are you? No, seriously.
I'm 33.
Okay, 33. It matters because a lot of your generation doesn't need to go to the store to touch it and see it and smell it. That is a big problem that we're facing. Is mine and Sam's generation, Gen Xers, that's how we shopped. We had to look at catalogs, the Sears catalog for Christmas presents, what I would have given to go and be able to peruse an entire store of all that stuff and touch it. So that's why I was interested in that statement.
Well, America has become, I guess I like to say, lazy in that sense. Is we want everything now. We want it in our hand. We want you to chew our food and put it in our mouth because that's what Uber Eats does. And you got to look at it. What was taken from that? What did we lose in that sense? And it's called the human interaction. Amazon doesn't have any human interaction. We can watch videos, sure. We can watch podcasts, we can watch YouTube on certain things, but we're missing the human interaction. And that's actually what makes us human, is the interaction with others. And that's the reason why we're sitting here, is because at some point some guy decided to talk to some dude about trading a rock for a stick. And here we are, now we're selling machines, but we're missing communication. So if your departments and your sales departments, your parts departments, service departments don't have a communication within each other and within the customers, this is why people are buying stuff online. This is why people are going to the easy route. The easy route isn't always cheaper. It's just convenience. And it's convenience because you're lacking in a certain part of your dealership and you're allowing these people to go do that. And and obviously you guys know that I've been to a lot of dealerships, did inventory at a lot of dealerships, and it just blows my mind just seeing people just letting customers walk out the door just because they're afraid. Product knowledge aside, you just need a guy to talk to somebody. So
what you're alluding to is the reactiveness of somebody coming to the employee and saying, hey, do you have, or the proactiveness of being a true salesperson and wanting to engage in a conversation. So this department traditionally, and this is what Tony loves to beat up on parts managers for throughout the years, is just where the hell are the salespeople in the parts department? And how do you train them to be salespeople and not just say, oh, do you have the tinted visor? Yes. And they walk out with one tinted visor and not a Sena helmet communicator or the long underwear or whatever the hell else heated gear goes along with that kind of stuff. So why, I'm going to make a bold statement and you can unwind it if you want. Why can't we have salespeople in the parts departments?
It comes down from, in my opinion, in my personal experience of years of working, I think it comes down to that idea of value. Like, I understand that these guys are salespeople. They get paid commission, but do they understand the value of that customer, of that sales process, of that product, of that? And yes, you can train people. And what I always, and I actually tell most of my staff, actually all of my staff, this is, I would rather have you guys know how to talk, make a friend, communicate with a customer than to know that this product is better, this product, because of these reasons. And I don't care about that. If a guy walks in and you're just a feature creature and you push him out the door because you're like, oh my God, this guy's too much, I'd rather have a guy talk about the football game for a half hour, what their favorite car is, favorite color, whatever, it doesn't matter, format. And it is true. I mean, people out there is like, yeah, that's what Sam and Tony say. It's like, guys, this is solid pieces of work. But yes, I think a lot of people, when they get hired, Sam, in the parts and accessories department, think, if I close my eyes and I open parts and accessory, what do you think about? You think about an island, like they're locked away. I've been to so many dealerships that, where's the parts department? Oh, it's all the way back there. You go there and it's a wall and the people are behind the wall in a counter. And I advise any dealership that has that, absolutely tear that down and put little kiosks scattered throughout your showroom floor. Because when you go to this island, then you hire, oh, what's my job? Well, I'm a parts guy. Oh, what do you do? Well, I just, cashier parts. No, you're a sales guy. And the reason why is we allow these dealerships, or dealerships out there, I should say, to make this idea that these are just parts guys. They just sell parts. They cashier parts, excuse me. So, okay, what does the sales department do that these parts don't? Okay, well, sales just has kiosks. They're all around. Okay, to make your parts department like that, mimic what they're doing, and transfer that. But you're allowing yourself for failure if you just block yourself off from the customers.
So a follow-up there, how do you stop a strong parts salesperson, let's put it in the right context, from then wanting to go sell major units because he or she believes they can make more money doing that? How do you keep them in the parts department?
I think it's honestly the challenge. It's funny that you said that because I just had this talk with an employee. And you're right. It's like it's a challenge. So if you just think of a part as a part, and I just sell you a spark plug, okay, cool. Like I sold you a spark plug, Sam. Okay, what's the challenge behind that? There's none. Okay, the challenge is what can I make that spark plug into? Could I make it into maybe a $5,000 parts bill down the road? And the answer to that is yes. There's so many customers that we've had that have come in here that were just a simple, I just need an oil change kit. All of a sudden you're shooting the crap with them, and all of a sudden, oh my God, they're buying a razor. Oh my God, now they're buying accessories. And then I look at the salesperson, I said, see, you created that. You created that guy to come here. And each one of my employees have had customers that have done that. And you can see on their face like this self-gratification of like, wow, I did do that. I'm like, yes. I said, major units aside, you're just taking one thing for multiple. And I actually said this to my guys on Friday. I said, do you think it's harder to sell one major unit or 15 line items of parts to a customer? And they kind of thought, and they're like, I guess that's hard. I said, how many times does a salesperson sell 2 units to one customer? I said, it happens, but not a lot. I said, so use the same philosophy. I said, so we're selling more stuff at a lesser price to one guy. I said, but they have to say yes that 15 times, where they just had to say yes one time to the major unit. So you got to kind of give them that challenge. Is like, what I do is I'll go around and be like, hey, I know that I see that on this ticket, you're selling a roof, windshield, rear panel, and mirrors. Try getting them on these items. Just go out there and just try to build some value on that. And then you'll see them go out there and then they're like, yeah, Sean, that worked. Or, oh, no, they didn't work. I'm like, well, as long as at the end of the day you can say, did you try 100% of everything that you possibly could? Like when you sit down with a customer and you're done, did I do everything I possibly could? If the answer to that question is yes, then I will accept that. If the answer is no, then I don't accept that. And you need to go back and call them or text them.
Yeah. No, I like it.
So I got a question for you that I think this is standard fare when we go into a 20 club and we talk to a general manager and owner, and that is, what are some of the strategies that you use to get your people to get your line items per tickets up? Because that's one of the things that it's hard for me to understand when somebody comes to the counter with anything that we're not getting 2 additional items on the ticket when they leave.
Yes. Honestly, that is every day. It's like kind of when the boss is away, the children will play. I feel like if I'm not there, that's where sometimes the training has to come around, and I have to kind of mold these guys into this idea of like, hey, this is what I expect from you guys. But in order to increase those items, you have to make your parts and accessories department accessible to the customer, meaning, does it make sense? I love to use the analogies of, look at all the successful businesses, Myers, Walmart, Fleet Farm. What are they doing? And does it make sense as a consumer when they're walking in? The answer is yes. They have years and years. Okay, we'll take their business philosophy, mimic it. Okay, so if I'm in the dairy section at Walmart, there's your milk, there's your butter, there's your cheese. Okay, cool. All right, I got my helmet. What should be by the helmets? Okay, maybe a helmet bag, maybe a helmet visor, maybe a neck gaiter to keep, and you just make it make sense. And that sometimes you don't have to then push the sale so much. You're not walking the customer here, then back here, then over here. You're just like, hey, I got everything right here. And then you show them that. But one of the biggest things I will say, guys, is I am just completely crazy about those 2 numbers. And then when I see a salesperson's numbers dip, I will literally go up to them and says, like, what's going on here? Like this, you're not selling anything if it's below 2. You're just transacting. And then they kind of like, yeah. And then what I love to do is I'll just go through the transactions of the day, and I was like, hey, what happened in this transaction? Or like, did you think this? And then what we do is you message those customers back, and you try to, if we didn't sell them enough stuff, you say, hey, like, I forgot to mention this, and it kind of adds a little bit more characterization. But for all the other stores out there, that what I can honestly say is, if they're struggling with lines per ticket, it literally comes down to your sales process. That's the reason why you're missing a step in that sales process. And you have to train your staff to just spend more time with that customer in the greet, in the probe, and just make a friend. Because if you don't do that, this is what's going to happen. You're going to get the 1.5s, the less, $100 per invoice. Like, there should be nothing in this store that you shouldn't be under $200 when you're walking out of here. It should always be like, I got to go to Cedar Creek. I got to get an oil change. And then when I'm there, hopefully the guys will say, yep, need all this other stuff. And you build value in that. And I think that's a big thing too, Tony, is you have to build value in your staff to show them what the dollars per invoice means, the lines per ticket means. It means more money for your paycheck, means more money for the store, more to the bottom line. And you can say that to them, but how do you translate that to values of an employee? And that's the bridge that a lot of dealerships I've seen can't connect. And so then they just resort to the, yep, here's your oil change, have a good day. And
in and of itself, though, what you just said, 95% of the industry doesn't have, which is, I was at a Harley Davidson 20 club last week, and I literally went up and drew the parts and accessories sales process. And they hadn't seen it or practiced it for so many years, if ever, that they were writing that stuff down and like, oh, okay, and then I went through a couple of those steps. I don't think that anybody ever, you're talking about the greed and the guided discovery and the enthusiasm of the team when it comes out and they're like, oh, this is what Sam and Tony say. Listen, if you're making it compelling and you're making it fun, and it's a culture of the department that we do it every single day, well, then they don't even know that they're in a 6-step sales process. They're just actually learning new things and practicing. But nobody, in my opinion, 95% of the industry does not do that.
And that's it's a sad reality. And I remember Schoolie kept going around and saying like to people, "Are you gas? Are you gas?" And I always laughed at that. All right, that was Schoolie, I think, right? Yes, it was gas or
Pretty
give
much
a
a lot of
crap.
people in our
Yeah,
company
yeah,
give a
okay. I
shit,
say it.
right? That's what it is. You give a shit.
I can definitely say that I have sent, people home when I can tell their attitude wasn't there, but I don't do it in a hostile way. I say like, "Hey, dude, like what we do is here's fun. Like if something's happening, just take a mental breather, go home, come back, recharge." And it works a lot. And I'm a very open parts manager. I'm a very like I see like obviously stuff is always going on at people's houses, but like if we aren't fun people to be around and we can't translate that fun to our customers, then no one's going to buy from us. And that is what's happening when you go online. And this whole podcast was about, hey, you parts department out there and you general managers out there, like this department needs to care about the customer experience, the turnover, the flow, because if they don't, you, the sales department, are losing sales. I promise you. I promise you that if you have a bad parts department, there are people that will not come to your dealership because of that and not buy a major unit.
If you don't have some of the hot, cool new product, you're forcing me to go online to find that kind of stuff. And then that's one more transaction I didn't do with your store. So I didn't meet the team.
Correct.
I didn't see the new Razor on the showroom floor.
And you didn't get service here either. So
you're correct. But we've all been in that scenario where you go to pick up one item and you end up with 4 additional items. And you're like, man, I'm really glad Sean recommended these because I had no idea that I even needed these, whatever cables for the microphones we're using right now, whatever it happens to be. You had a better experience. There's a direct correlation between line items per ticket increasing and customer experience. So if you need to care about something, parts team, care about the customer experience here. I go back, I was thinking when we were talking about one of the previous bullet points, I go back to during COVID times and the first time boat buyers. There's a screen that we use that we get data from Wells Fargo, and it's first time boat buyers. That number was higher than it had ever been since we've been tracking it during the COVID times. It was up to 29% of every boat during COVID. And I forget which year, Tony, I think it was 22 or 23, one of those years. And it fell all the way down to 22% past COVID, which is to say more than 1 out of every 5 people coming in, they don't know what they don't know. They buy a new major unit and they have no idea all the new product that's available or even all the product they should be wearing that they don't. Do I need armor in my jacket? Should I have a ventilated jacket or an all-season jacket? Like, they don't know what they don't know. And this is what is so frustrating to me when you have a parts counter person who's waiting to be asked a question to answer it to then go about his day. And that is just not the person at all we want. We want these salespeople with high line items per ticket. And for the listener, if you're wondering, Sean's number, they are above the benchmark in line items per ticket and average sale. They are also crushing the benchmark in where I want to go next, which is obsolescence.
Yes,
you're very passionate about watching your obsolescent inventory. And again, for the non-industry listener, that's inventory that's been sitting there for over 12 months. It's a huge blind spot for so many dealers, and honestly, for some who don't address it, it just gets worse because every month it just keeps piling on. We have dealers that are out there that are approaching $1 million in obsolete P&A inventory. Why do you think it's such a blind spot for these dealers?
I honestly, I just think that they just don't know, Sam. Like I know that's like what? I literally think that they just don't know. It's like when we watch football and we're like, what the heck is this guy calling this play for? It's kind of the same way as I have seen in a lot of the dealerships that I did inventory on and just consulted and looked at. I look at how long the parts manager's been there, and it's overwhelmingly that a lot of it is very short termed. Like they'll have a guy for like he's like, yeah, I just started in May or I just started last year. And it's just like, man, like how long does it take for your feet to be on the ground to really start understanding what obsolete and inventory control means? And a lot of it also is, I've also heard a lot of parts managers say is like, I don't have the access to view the inventory. I was like, what? How does a parts manager not have access to the inventory? And then I'll be like, well, do you not have access or do you just not know how? And then it's like, oh, well, I just don't know how. It's like, okay, well, let me show you. And when I show them these numbers, they're like, oh my God, like what is this? And all I can tell you guys is I wrote this down when I was like last night. I said, and I'll say this to any general manager or owner out there, if you guys were walking, let's say, into any store you want and you found $1 on the ground, $1, would you pick it up? Would you pick it up, Tony? Would you pick it up, Sam?
Yeah. Heck yes, I would.
Okay, then why aren't you doing that with your obsolete? Why aren't you doing that with your inventory? So like right here, there's a part that's $1. it's a $1 you found on the ground. You don't want to pick it up. You just want to keep putting it in a box. You just keep wanting to putting it back on your shelf, and maybe some guy will come and buy it. Or you can be proactive about getting rid of that and getting your dollar back, because all that obsolete pile is that's your dealership's money put on a pallet, and you guys just forked it in the top, and then you're just looking at the money and you're like, one day I'll get to it. But no, today is that day. Like, this is the time where you guys have to turn that money into something. And yes, dealers out there, I've talked to so many general managers like, I can't lose money on this. It's like, no, you lost money on that 6 years ago. Okay. Like, at this point, we just need to, move forward from this. And the big thing is I just want the parts managers really to sit down there and inventory themselves, figure out what we actually physically have here, and what is I always say the 3 steps of trying to get rid of this stuff. And it's here at this store, one of our reasons why our OBS is so low is because I am crazy about it, Sam. And I viewed it as like my own stuff, like my own inventory. When I was a young man, we used to have family rummage sales. I don't know if you guys had that out in Florida, but sure. So my dad would take my mom and dad would take my toys, put it out on there, and then we'd get rid of them. And I always told my dad, we got that for $10. He's like, it's not worth $10, Sean. It's 50 cents. And I was like, what the heck? And you know what happened, Sam? When we didn't sell that stuff, we threw it away. Yeah, and I was like so angry. So that's when I kind of got this mad that I was like, we got to sell this stuff. And so when I get this pile of obsolete inventory, it's like, we have to sell this. Now, to the dealers out there,
wait. You teed up 3 steps. What are those 3 steps?
Okay, well, 3's the first step. I always have 3s in everything. It's my favorite number. But first, you have to identify the problem. Okay, where is it? Second is you got to get it in front of you guys. You can't keep it on a pallet. You can't put it in back. And you can't do that. So either get it on your showroom floor or get it to a spot where it's accessible to customers or yourself. Third one, no brainer, is you got to sell it. Well, how do you sell this stuff? And I love to tell dealers, guess what, guys? You have literally everything in front of you in Lightspeed and your DSMs, eBay, whatever. And the glory thing is if you have a part, let's say, for example, it's a Razor windshield from old chassis, you can literally go into your DSM or your Lightspeed and type in what year it fits, and it will populate every single person you ever sold a Razor to that year, whatever you serviced it. And guess what? You just pick up the phone. Hey, we found this windshield at a great price. And I guarantee you a customer will say yes. And I looked at it and I took that from kind of the idea of, I kept getting these phone calls from Ford. Like, hey, your truck is old. You should buy a new one. I'm like, God. But I was just like, how the hell do they know I have a Ford? I'm like, oh, because I bought one and I serviced it there. And I was like, well, why don't we just call those people that have these old parts and just call them? And honestly, Sam, I know that sounds so stupid, but it works. And there's so many dealerships where I'll be like, how the heck do they have this old part? And they're like, yeah, we're just waiting for a customer to come in. You can't do that. There is no waiting in this industry. You have to create your busyness. You have to call that guy. You have to get him in to the store.
Sitting here thinking about your ZX10 that you were bringing up earlier. And if somebody called and said, we got a carbon fiber hugger that we just found in inventory, would you be interested at 50% off? You'd be like, yeah, send the damn thing. Yeah.
Right. Or 50 or 80. It doesn't. Yeah, whatever. Whatever that can be up to the discretion of the dealer. But the point is that will work. There's a lot of when the Sea-Doo switches came out, the covers were really clunky and hard, and of course we ordered a bunch of them, and we literally just called around to people and said, hey, would you be interested in a cover at this price? And resoundingly, we got rid of a lot of them, and that was more or less a proactive sales approach, not a reactive. It was more or less like, hey, we have this stuff. Let's be proactive about getting rid of it. And that translates to that obsolete inventory, Sam. And even a $1 part on the ground, what can I do with that part? Now, are you going to call a guy about a $1 part? Maybe, maybe not. Or what you can do is you can figure out what that part fits and throw it in a different bin. Let's say, for example, it fits like a CB1100, and then you have another part that fits a CB1100. You have a box of CB1100 parts. You can just next guy, you're like, hey, I got a bunch of parts for CB1100. I saw that you have one. Would you be interested in buying any of these parts? And we did that, and people actually came in and bought the stuff, and it allowed us to take that money that $1 that we got maybe, and yes, we lost it, but we were able to take that dollar, invest it into a different part, a windshield, a mirror, and then you can just turn, and then you'll start making profit off your obsolete and start getting it cleaned up. And it is amazing, but you got to have that mindset, and you have to have organization. That's why that second step, getting this stuff out, you got to organize. You can't just, I'll have it here, 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 and here. You can't have that. You maybe go in on your day off, parts managers, and just hammer it out.
Good stuff in there, man. So let's switch to a different topic, which is much like the human brain. I think dealers use their DMS system like 5% of its capacity, right? And it can be extraordinarily complex to figure out how to use it or how to run reports, but you run specific reports within your DMS, which I believe you're on Lightspeed,
Yes.
to help you with that heavy lift of inventory control within high volume dealers, right? So talk to me about what those are, how you use them, and continue to expand on this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. My all-time favorite report, I love the 510 report. And if you don't know what that is, it's just an inventory report, and it'll say months of no sales, months of receiving, and then you can edit it to show by suppliers, Polaris, Honda, whatever, and then it'll break it all down. Now, it's a big number usually for dealers that haven't done this in a while, and then you can get overwhelmed. But I use that report probably twice a week, and that is how I look and watch what is coming to be obsolete and what isn't, because you can set the parameters. Maybe it's 11 months no sale, 12 months no sale. Heck, if you have a really big obsolete and you can't tackle 12 months, maybe you can go to 24 or 36 and then work your way down that way. But what I love to do is it will show me a total at the bottom, says, here's your obsolete, Sean, and this is what the number is, and this is the number that I need to focus on. But with that, I always will say this, and I told this all the time when I will talk to other dealers about this, is if you want to make a report, all you have to do is pick up the phone and call Lightspeed and say, I would like my report to do this. And I guarantee you they will help you do that. I've made so many reports, and I've shared them within our stores and other stores about, here's some reports that I think would benefit your dealership and how make it easier for you guys to sell product and to see what you guys physically have in inventory. But again, Tony, and what it comes down to, you gotta communicate. You gotta ask. You can't just sit there and be like, I don't have the access, so I can't do the job. It's like, well, then ask or learn or figure it out. It's just not an excuse. It's like, this is your job. You're here to manage that department. So get out there.
So we started this whole podcast with sales and how do you get buy-in on the sales side of this thing, and now this inventory piece is a huge component. And my question is, an effective parts manager, are they inventory control management people? Or are they selling managers? Can they be both? What do you think?
Sam, I am not the best salesman in the world, I don't think. Maybe I can be proven wrong, but what I think is you have to be a jack of all trades, really a master of none. Meaning that you have to be like detail oriented. You gotta. I once saw this old picture of a Roman soldier, and there was a chariot, and the leader was whipping the people, and they were pulling the chariot, and then there was a leader in front who had the whip forward. And it mindset is like, a manager has to lead. He can't whip. He can't tell people what to do. He has to show people what to do. So a good parts manager isn't a guy that has an office. I don't have an office, by the way. I'm out on the floor watching and walking around. You can't be behind closed doors. You can't just watch a computer screen of numbers. You have to be out there and say, because I do this affects this number. And you have to show that to your people and show them the benefits. You have to be out there. And you can be book smart. You can read. You can go through all the process. But that means absolutely nothing if you can't translate that to your staff. So you have to. So in answer to your question is, you have to be a jack of all trades. You got to be out there. You got to be a decent salesperson. You got to be detail oriented. You got to be good at inventory. Maybe not great, but good at inventory control. And you have to understand how the dealership works with each other. And you can't, I've been to so many, well, that's a service manager's job. That's the sales manager's job. It's like, no. We all, what's this say here on our shirt? Oh, it's a Cedar Creek, or it says, whatever, blah, powersports. You work for this company. This is how it works. You just work at this company in this department. You are benefiting this whole dealership. You have to help us make a sale transaction.
I love that.
So.
I love that philosophy. And Tony, you heard him say he has no office, right? That statement right there should tell you something. It's not like, oh yeah, I'm out of my office walking around all the time. No, I have no office.
I have no office. And I remember we were building when we were building this store. I remember they were like, "Hey, would you like your office?" I said, "I'm not getting an office." I said, "I don't want one." And they're like, "Okay." That was just left at that. And I said, "I'm just not. This is not who I am as a manager. Maybe that's maybe a downfall, but
no,
I just
no.
All right.
It's not at all. And honestly, the best of the best, they may have an office, but they're like, I just put my coat there, throw my lunch on my desk, and I shut the door. That's not where I am. General managers included. I'm not in my office. It's an 80-20 rule. I spend 20% of my time in an office where I have to do emails and paperwork. The rest of the time, I am on my feet moving. And that is, no.
And I feel like we have that good characterization here at this store is like we really don't have offices. This obviously is an office so I can talk to you fine gentlemen, but I like to see managers out on the floor because it shows to the staff that, hey, they actually care about me. I remember when we first started talking about this, I was told you we hired that manager at my old job, and then I left because I didn't like him. He had an office, and he just sat there, and we actually had a PA system, and he would just be like, "Sean, get back to work," or "Sean, this machine is down," and oh my God, did that infuriate me. And it's still me. It's like, I could never be that type of a person where I would just sit in my office and just page somebody to do their job. It would just, you gotta reverse your role. If you were a sales, or, on a salesperson and you were on the floor trying to sell, would you appreciate that? And the answer to that question is no. So then why would we like that in our dealerships? It's like, you gotta lead by example. At least in my experience. So.
Awesome.
I love it, man. Sean Bracey, thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Absolutely.
And tons of good stuff that people, I believe, actually were writing down. Just when you said the report number, I'm like, yep, there's a bunch of people that are actually writing that report number down. But
that's right.
Yeah, I love your
lot more out there. So
yeah, I love your proactive style. I love your enthusiasm, and I love where your head's at. So thank you so much for joining us on GarageCast.
No, thank you, guys, again, very much. I was bothering the heck out of Sam to try to get on. I was like, guys, I just want people to care about the parts department. That's it.
I love it.
Just care, guys. That's all I care.
Right on, man. For Sean Bracey and Sam Dantzler, I'm Tony Gonzalez. This has been GarageCast. Have a fantastic Tuesday, everybody.
Thanks, guys.